The changes that I've seen here are remarkable. I was only the third non-Catholic hired in the history of Notre Dame. All three of us, who were the first three, are still taught this year. We just had the retirement party for one of them. Ken Sayer, some of you might have studied under, was the first non-Catholic hired here from Harvard in the mid-50s. My colleague Vaughn McKim was the second, hired in 1966. I was hired in 1968. Although Father Hesberg, given my name, actually thought he was hiring the first Jew in the Notre Dame Philosophy Department and ended up getting a Southern Baptist from Baylor. You contrast that with the Philosophy Department now, which has 42 members, only 2 of them whom under the age of 50 are Catholic. This year, in our job search, we brought in 14 job candidates to interview. Not a single one was Catholic of the 14 job candidates. And a similar story can be told about other places at Notre Dame. We're also in the Philosophy Department, in terms of national rankings, the best department at Notre Dame. And we're all trying to be better. In fact, one of the reasons why secularization takes place is the pressure on all of us to get better at any cost. The last external review we had in the Philosophy Department, our then provost, Nathan Hatch, a splendid provost, good Protestant that he was, gave the following instructions to the external review committee. We were then ranked by the most accepted ranking body with regard to departments in the humanities, the 13th best philosophy department in the country. And Provost Hatch's advice to the external review committee, or order to them, was to provide him some plan so that we could move into the single digits. That was his only advice, that we needed to get Notre Dame up, at least our philosophy department, up to 9th place. It's difficult to get better and retain the distinctive religious character of a university. The question is it inevitable that universities, when they get to be really good, when they inspire to be absolutely first rate, is it inevitable that they have to give up their Christian character? My sense is that most faculty, and Tom and I may disagree about this, I think most faculty at Notre Dame think now that it is probably inevitable that Notre Dame can remain as distinctively Catholic as it's been in the past and become a really great university. I don't know. I don't have polling data on that, but that's my sense. And I think there are a number of arguments, the main one being what I would call the quality argument, an argument that has functioned here for a long time. And it's simply the argument that if you want to get good fast, and really good really fast, you're going to have to hire the smartest and best people you can find. And in doing that, you can't be slowed down by asking too many questions about religious vocation, calling, religious commitment. And in fact, you're going to put a lot of people off. The most daring thing about Baylor University, where Tom now resides, is they had a provost who for about 5 years interviewed every job candidate at the university, personally, the provost. And Baylor's a school roughly the size of Notre Dame, big school, and he brought them into his office and he asked them questions like, do you go to church? Now, Baylor hired a lot of Jews, a lot of Catholics, a lot of Mormons, but they wanted people who had a kind of faith commitment, and they asked them questions, and they made that important. Now, as Tom said, that put some people off, and I think Baylor thought that was okay at the time. There was a price they had to pay to have a faculty that would have a certain kind of commitment. Now, this debate more and more has come to be a debate about how we manage this trade-off between academic quality and religious distinctiveness. One of the things, I agree with very much of this splendid Faculty Senate report about the dangers of focusing too much on religious identity. But the first plank of the report, I must say, is one that bothers me a lot. The first plank of the recommendation says this: the university, that is Notre Dame, should not compromise its academic aspirations in its efforts to maintain its Catholic identity. Now, that entails in logic that if it becomes necessary if there's a deep conflict between academic aspiration, the aspiration to become really good, really first-rate, and maintaining our Catholic identity, the Faculty Senate is committed to giving up the Catholic identity. That's what the university should not compromise its academic aspirations in its efforts to maintain its Catholic identity. Now, that's a claim about priorities, that in the end, academic aspirations have to come first. Now, I disagree with that. I think it's that argument that has led to secularization. Not because I think it's always the case that you have to give up your Catholic identity or your Christian identity or your religious identity for academic aspirations, but it almost always appears to be true, that's the case. But even if it were the case, I think there's reason not only for us to continue to be the sort of place that Tom Hibbs talked about, but there's reason to believe that we can be that sort of place and be pretty doggone good. I mean, be very good, and perhaps that's the way Notre Dame can be the best it can be. It's not, I think, a surprise that the three most distinguished senior academics in my department, and in many ways the three most distinguished senior academics in the Arts College at Notre Dame, are my colleague Alistair McIntyre, Al Plantinga, the man I talked about before, and a very distinguished contemporary philosopher named Peter Van Inwagen, all of whom would not have come to Notre Dame, in their cases, except for the special Christian distinctiveness. Two of the three are Protestant. They're fully committed to the Christian identity of Notre Dame, and they all three could have had positions at Harvard, at Princeton, at Oxford, or Cambridge, and they chose to come to Notre Dame because of its special character. There are times when being a place that's distinctive helps us in the hiring race, helps us with regard to this quality consideration. One last word. I know we want time here for questions. One other argument that has been very important here at Boston College and at Baylor is the argument from diversity. It's something else that the Faculty Senate emphasized, and I must say it's something that I'm very concerned about too. It's important, especially at an educational institution in a country like ours, a kind of melting pot country committed to pluralism in all sorts of ways, that we have a diverse faculty and diverse student body. We be committed to diversity. But I do think that we have a special there's a special kind of diversity that we need to be committed to. And there's a sort of standard, again, kind of logical mistake that people frequently make in thinking about diversity as it applies to a place like Notre Dame. It's not that we should, as it were, pursue, I think, primarily diversity, as we might say, in the retail way, but more in the wholesale way. If we want diverse families in this country, we would not normally try to have every family be one with daddy a Catholic, mommy a Jew, and baby brother a secular humanist or something like that. If we want diverse families, what we want are strong Catholic families, strong Jewish families, strong families of various sorts that are supported and can work through the sort of perform the social functions of families from these perspectives. In the same way, our commitment to diversity in American higher education at Notre Dame, I think, should be very much like Brandeis's commitment as the foremost Jewish university in this country, Brigham Young's commitment as the foremost Mormon university, and we should be the foremost Catholic university. Now, scholars, I think we would all admit, those of us in the academy, tend to hunt in packs. We hang together. Our work depends upon working in communities. It's hard to be a Catholic philosopher all by yourself. It's hard to be a Catholic academic all by yourself. And we need places where people with commitments to serious scholarship and done out of a religious perspective can come and feel comfortable with others pursuing the same goals. I look out at my colleague Ralph Wood, who's a distinguished visitor here at Notre Dame this year and one of the most distinguished Christian writers on literature in this country. The reason he's here, as opposed to Harvard or Oxford, is he knew he had lots of people he could talk to here who shared his interests. Not that they would all agree with him. He's like all academics, he disagrees with everybody and starts fights wherever he goes. But He would start fights with people who shared enough in common with him to make them good and interesting fights. And we need to have places like that, and that's Notre Dame's commitment to diversity. As we become more Catholic, we become more successful in pursuing this goal of diversity in American higher education.